The thoughts, views, and comments expressed by the hosts, guests, callers, and advisors on Beyond the Headlines are not necessarily those of the management, ownership, or production unit of ILS, the Verizon Media Group. Beyond the Headlines is a production of ILTV Studios and cannot be represented in part or entirety without the express written consent of the Verizon Media Group. Beyond the Headlines is the intellectual property of the Verizon Media Group. Copyright 2026. All rights reserved.
Coming up tonight, TUC President Obi Ferguson says the standoff between the taxi union and the livery drivers union could damage the Bahamas' tourism product if the row between them isn't resolved. The Department of Labor shutting down several construction sites after 2 industrial accidents recently. We hear the strict measures they have now put in place. Also tonight, the nurses union says they're still waiting on the outstanding issues impacting members of that union to be addressed. This is Beyond the Headlines. Good evening. I'm Shanique Miller. It's great to have you along this evening. We're going to get to that story in just a moment and the interview, but first, the state of the nation. And could the church be behind the issues that are happening in the Bahamas? Well, this was along the lines of a sermon delivered on independence at Clifford Park this year by Bahamas Christian Council President Pastor Mario Moxie. Pastor Moxie is here this evening to talk about that and to bring some measuredness, a balance to what so many people are putting out there on social media and everywhere else in various groups about why the Bahamas is the way it is or what's happening in the Bahamas. Everybody has their say. Pastor Moxie, good evening to you. Welcome to Beyond the Headlines. It's great to have you here. I imagine you have heard a whole lot of the what's being said.
Good evening, Shanique. It's good to be here with you again. Always good to be in your company. Yes, of course, you hear a lot about what people say, especially as it relates to the spiritual state of our country. One of the things I said during my address was I'm not an alarmist. It's not to alarm anyone, but we do need to pay attention to the fact that our moral values are declining. And when we find ourselves in a state of collapse like that, we need to be very mindful and begin to do some major introspection. Look within, and then also look upward to God, because He's the author and finisher of our faith. But one of the things I also said as I started that message, that it all begins with God. God is the source. God is the one that raises up nations, and He's the one that tears them down. And so we have to look to God, who, if we are accountable to Him, then we have to look to Him to find out what's going on, what's our purpose, why are we here? And so it's very, very important for all of us to take responsibility for the action and the state of our country.
But in particular, you feel as though the church must lead as it once did in the Bahamas.
Of course.
How far away from that ideal has the church fallen away in the Bahamas?
The church has always been on the forefront of being the moral conscious and spiritual conscious of this nation. That's been one of the consistent things you've seen from one administration of the Bahamas Christian Council to the next. We've always had voices speaking to the moral sobriety of our country, and that's a very important thing. So the church has always been in the forefront. I think today there's a lot more darkness, and anytime there's a lot more darkness, light shines its brightest. And so you're seeing a time when it's important for us as a people to begin to really go back to God and say, God, what's going on? We're in a place, and everywhere I go, you hear the same thing. People are wanting to pray. People are wanting to gather together. They're sensing that we need to get back to the basic fundamental things. And I'm in total agreement with that.
So why aren't these more public prayer gatherings happening?
You know, the church has always been praying. As a matter of fact, on my drive here, I'm seeing a couple of guys out on the street with a microphone, and they're preaching. These things are happening every single day in this nation. We just simply don't pay attention to it. We look at the church as though the church is not doing what it's called to do. And by and large, as I said at the Independence celebration, we do need to repent. There are times when we as pastors have let people down. We haven't lived up to the moral standard that we preach and we espouse. And I admit that. There are times when I've disappointed people. And so we have to admit where we've gone wrong. But it's really not about casting blame as much as it is in this hour of taking responsibility for the things that we've done or the things we've not done. And shouldering that responsibility, stepping up to the plate and saying, let's do better than we've done before. Let's really step up. Let's really live the life that we preach. And not only the church take responsibility, but everyone else as well take responsibility for their actions. If we're going to turn this Bahamas around, it's not going to be because, and we have incredible law enforcement, we have incredible police officers in this country, but we can't arrest our way out of a moral decline. This is an individual responsibility that each and every one of us have to begin to look to God and say, God, where have I gone wrong? Where have I stepped off the deep end?
Many people feel as though the church, the Christian Council, the church is very selective in what it chooses to address. It lets issues, for example, like domestic violence, youth violence, mental health issues, corruption, crime, incest and all this stuff, sexual assault and any other thing, many other things rather. It lets those things kind of go by the way and decides to address this over that. People say because many pastors are coming up short. How do you respond to that?
All I have to say to that is, if persons were to go to church every Sunday, they'll hear pastors speaking on sin issues above everything you said just now. These things are addressed on Sunday mornings in almost, well, let me say not almost every pulpit, but in many pulpits throughout the length, breadth of this nation. We seem to think that because we don't hear it, it doesn't mean that the message isn't being spoken. And that's not necessarily the case. The message is being spoken, the church is speaking, and the church will continue to speak. We have spoken on a number of topics, especially as it relates to abuse of children and women. But again, not everything is covered with the same weight, and you know that. In media, some things carry more weight than others. Some things surface to the top, other things fall to the bottom. It really depends on the appetite of the consumer and what media houses are willing to project.
Now, should the church be willing to, in today's Bahamas, where people feel as though the nation has gone off the rails somewhat, should you be willing to speak, and are you speaking with political leaders, civic leaders, and the like, to try and say, listen, all of us, and maybe led by you all, along with us holding your hands, must find our way back to center?
One of the wonderful things about the Bahamas Christian Council, think about it in threefold ways. One is one of our roles is to speak to the moral consciousness of our nation, the spiritual consciousness of our nation. Secondly is to advise government on policy. We don't run the government, we simply advise the government, and it's really up to politicians to determine whether or not they're going to take that advice. But as a sub to that, there's also the opportunity to speak into many organizations, and we do that from time to time. So the voice of the Christian Council, or the voice of the church, is being heard in a lot of different spaces. And many times those private conversations that are had, they're things that happen behind closed doors that most people would never know. But those conversations are being had.
Back to the moral dilemma comment that you made earlier. What are some of the clear signs that the Bahamas and our national values have changed, are changing?
We've become desensitized as a people. There are things that at one point in time probably would have upset us, and now they no longer upset us.
Maybe because the nation is numbed.
The nation is numb, and that's the whole point. We've become very desensitized to these things. So when you talk about some of the things we've strayed from, look at adultery, for example. It is the responsibility. Can you imagine a Bahamas where men and women are faithful to one another and not outside of the marriage?
Is there ever such a thing?
So, yeah, but again, these are areas where we have become very desensitized. And as a people, we make excuses. This is my boy, this is my this, whatever it is, this is my girl, I can't say nothing. And then we look at these horrendous crimes that take place and we wonder, well, what's going on? It doesn't start at the horrendous crime. It started at the small things. There was a time ago when a teacher in our public schools, a single woman, if she was pregnant, she would have to resign. That's no longer the case. And I'm not picking on teachers or women or anything of that nature. I'm just showing that we have strayed so much from moral values that we have accepted some things. And not only have we accepted some things, we're now calling good evil and evil good. We're twisting the moral fabric of our society. We're twisting God's law to suit and to accommodate our own appetite and our preferences for sin. And when that begins to happen, you begin to see the deterioration of a nation. One of the things I said in my speech, if you look at history, throughout history, great empires didn't collapse because there were enemies at the gate. It happened because there was something that was rotten on the inside.
Okay.
That's how it happens. History always speaks with one voice. There is a pattern to this, and that's the only point that I was making. We need to begin to examine what's happening on the inside, because as beautiful as the Bahamas is, we have a nation to protect. We don't want to go the path where our nation eventually falls into this moral decay that there is no coming back. We're not there yet. So I want to say that we're not there yet. But this is the reason why you have preachers that would stand on the street corners and they would tell everyone, repent, repent.
Repent. Are you that Christian Council president who is going to not be afraid, not be intimidated of addressing whatever those issues are, regardless of who is in front of them or behind them?
I think I have a track record in the nation.
You came out vocal already.
Yeah, I have a track record in the nation, so I don't think there's a concern that many persons have of me speaking to issues regardless of whatever that issue is. And we always take a principled position. It's never personal. It's always principled. And hence the reason why we can have the kind of relationships that we have with everyone. Because people at the end of the day, they expect the church to speak out on stuff that is not right, that is not principled. There's an expectation that everybody has, from the politician to the teachers to the business person, the entrepreneur. Everyone expects that someone's going to say, you know what, that's not the standard. Here is the standard. And it's been proven over and over again.
Yeah, but do you, how would you address even the church? Because I think the church has the lead. So within your own ranks and your organization, the one that you now lead, in terms of, calling pastors back first. Like if we see you all at the front of the line repenting, then perhaps the nation is more inclined to want to follow suit. How do you plan to address many of them who play in the same games that if a politician or anybody else is playing?
Like I said, I've already started that process in my independence address. I spoke about that.
But to speak about it is one thing, but to actually be getting it done, that's where the disrespect has happened. And that's where people say, man, shoots if Rev doing it.
And I completely agree. We have not lived up to the standard that we espouse. And shame on us that don't do it. I believe that we need to continually hold that standard high. There is, and I'm not saying that pastors are perfect by any stretch of the imagination. We are human beings. We mess up. We make mistakes. The point is, you don't hide. You don't try to conceal these things. There's something about being authentic in our walk. It takes a certain level of character. It takes a certain level of moral standing in order to preach the word of God. And there's some things that honestly do disqualify ministers from speaking. But yet we know that these things happen. On a case-by-case basis, hopefully many of these issues would be addressed.
Now, there's been two major tragic national issues recently. Again, going back to when I said the nation is numbed yes. by hearing those issues and the headlines every day, every other day. How would you speak, or perhaps I'll give you an opportunity to speak to the nation, to bring some word of hope after, the teenagers and then obviously the plane incident in Andros. Speak to the nation tonight and moving forward about what our posture should be, about that we can move on from here.
It's heart-wrenching when we saw the news of those 5 individuals that lost their lives in the Shirley Street car accident. These are young individuals, 19, 18, 20-something-year-olds, who were doing something with their life. They were contributing to nation building, and now we see the unrealized potential that's just been snuffed out. And then on top of that, just weeks later, this plane crash on Independence Day that took a number of the members of the band, the pod band, and it's just heart-wrenching because, again, these are individuals who are contributing to the development of our nation in the area of culture. When we see things like this, immediately we begin to think that these things can happen to anyone. It doesn't matter your age, it doesn't matter whether you're contributing or not. We have gotten to the place in our country where we become numb. We hear gun violence and gang violence all over the place, and gangsters being shot and killed, and we become numb to that. But in this instance, these are accidents that are taking place. And so this is an opportunity for us as a nation, and my heart goes out to these grieving families. I've had the opportunity to sit with some of them and to hear their heartbreak, to feel what they're feeling in this moment. Of course, we can only relate to them to a certain extent, but it is so heart-wrenching. I want to encourage each and every one of us to take care of our brothers and sisters, to be mindful that tomorrow is not promised to any of us. We have today, and we have to make sure that our election is sure, that our faith is built on no one else other than Jesus Christ. He's the hope for the world today, and we need to give our lives to him.
Pastor Mario Moxie, President of the Bahamas Christian Council, thank you very much for stopping by this evening. Just right on time, quite frankly. Something, the words of hope that the nation needs to hear, and frankly also describing where the nation stands in terms of its morals and how far we've fallen. But obviously we will get back on track. It's necessary that we do. Thank you very much, Pastor Moxie, President of the Bahamas Christian Council, for stopping by this evening.
Amen. Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. When we come back, we have the Livery Drivers Union answering the big question, are they partly responsible for what could be the downfall of the tourism industry? We talk about that right after the break.
Hey, it's your boy Charlie Bahama here at Superwash, Superwash's newest spokesmodel. And I'm here to tell you about Superwash's large capacity washers and dryers for all your big loads.
I know I see that Charlie Banana coming here just now.
Luckily, it's also big enough for me to hide it.
I thought he was right over here where these large capacity washer and dryers is. They're big enough now to handle your big loads, you know. Yeah, like your comfort on your blanket. But just look at us. Somebody forget to turn on the dryer. Oh, stop! Help! You hear something? Yeah, that's the sound of clean. Superwash washes your process you and entertains them 24/7.
A lot of people know CBS Bahamas and the CBS Pro Store thanks to our beautiful retail stores. But what you may not know is contractors love shopping here as well. Whether you need a flat rack of shingles, a truckload of drywall, or a pallet of joint compound, we can make it happen with unbeatable pricing, fast turnaround times, and excellent communication. That's why contractors love shopping with CBS Bahamas. Learn more at cbsbahamas.com.
Marco's Pizza, Marco's Pizza, something never tasted so good. Marco's Summer Party is bringing the fun. Choose 2 large one-topping pizzas with a 2-liter soda for just $34.95. Or grab a big square deal, 1 medium, 1-topping pizzas with boneless wings for just $39.95. Enter to win weekly Baja Bay water passes and your very own Marco's Summer Party pack all summer long. Marco's Pizza, summer never tasted so good.
TUC President Obi Ferguson says the ongoing row between the taxi cab union and the livery drivers union threatens to overshadow the visitor experience. In fact, Ferguson says the dispute could damage the #1 industry. I want to begin by saying I have reached out to Taxi Union President Tyrone Butler. He wasn't able to appear this evening. However, I am joined by the President of the Livery Drivers Union, Tori Austin, and his Vice President, Toran Williams. Gentlemen, good evening to both of you. Thank you very much for being here. Welcome to Beyond the Headlines.
Good night. Good night, Bahamas. Good night.
Gentlemen, I'll tell you, you say good night, but there's some serious business. In the news today, Obi Ferguson is making a number of comments about what is, I guess, a row, a standoff that's really dragged on for quite some time now between your union and the taxi cab union, and say that what is happening and taking shape and playing out in the front of tourists and on the nation's front door has the potential to destroy the tourism industry. What is happening since the last time you've been here? And once again, I have reached out to the taxi cab union to appear, and he was unable to appear this evening. But what is going on exactly?
First of all, I would like to clear up something. It says the union row between, it takes two different parties to row. And I'll stand on this from day one to now. We have never rowed or been in any dispute with taxis. We are the ones being targeted. We are the ones being attacked. We are the ones being, basically being blamed for everything. We've always pulled our pants up and showed up professionally on our jobs. We've never gone into any back and forth with taxis. We have always been, I would say, on the defense. If you're being attacked and being accused and all of this stuff, we have only defended ourselves. We have no issues with the taxis. In fact, we've made many attempts to we even started out before having meetings with taxis leaders and trying to create a sensible issue, but that's not what they want. And when they talk about ruining the industry from the clients that are coming in, it's only been taxis that the other day that blocked up the airport.
That did what?
Had a strike and blocked up the airport. It wasn't livery drivers. So, just be very, I want him to make sure to use his words wisely and don't include us in this whole hoorah about what's going on.
Well, how concerned should Bahamians be? Because they blocked it up in protest, I imagine. We didn't even hear about this one. But this is all playing out in front of the tourists, the visitors coming to the Bahamas. And I'll tell you the truth, when you visit a nation, you could care less about what y'all got going on. And so therefore, when you come, and this is the first thing you see, it leaves a horrible first impression. How concerned should Bahamians be that this is happening at LPIA?
I tell you, very, very concerned. I happened to be out there that morning when they decided to have the strike. And I engaged on clients as they came out of the door. And we had to basically explain to them, and the witness Nad explained to a lot of them, that unfortunately the taxis are having a whole strike, and therefore we have to find substitute drivers for them to get to where they needed their destination. So we had to step in and take clients to their destinations. But they were like, you can see in their look on their face that they weren't happy with what was going on at the airport. There were delays in people getting to the airport. There was flights, et cetera, people had to get out of their cars and walk in luggage. I mean, it was serious damage control.
And Toran, that protest was about what?
Well, specifically,
yes.
Specifically, the only concern that we've gotten and that we've even tried to address, does the taxi union, because I don't want to misquote anyone, the taxi union has a problem with livery drivers. Mm-hmm. Livery drivers. That's their #1 agenda at this point. But the livery drivers and the Bahamas Livery Drivers Union, we do not have an issue with taxi drivers.
And the issue is what again? Because this row is now becoming quite stale and old. The industry is growing, isn't it? People have different sort of desires and wants when they visit, right? So what is the basis of this issue?
Their initial concern is that livery drivers are taking their fares. But like you had mentioned, the industry have shifted Initially, I'd like to add a few things. The Road Traffic Act was written in 1958. Alrighty, it's almost about 70 years later. So a lot of the terms, a lot of the definitions, interpretations, they don't even exist anymore. So one of our major concerns is that now with this industry is going through a paradigm shift. We have triple the amount of livery cars on the road now. I think we have double the amount of taxi cabs on the road now. And also the fleets for the major tour operators has increased. So our industry right now, this is a major segment. And we still have new people coming into this industry every day. We have new drivers, new taxi cab drivers. And to divvy this industry up, that's a major concern.
What do you mean to divvy it up?
Well, we have large tour operators, and then we have taxi cab drivers, we have livery drivers. So between the other independent drivers, the individual minor, I would say, livery drivers or business owners, they get the minority of the business.
Hold on, so you all are getting, but first of all, who gave you all permission? Because the taxi drivers give the impression that, listen, the Road Traffic Act and the Ministry of Transport perhaps gave them the stamp of approval. The airport is yours, the door is yours, the call-up system, only you all belong on that. So when did you all enter the picture, and are you there legally?
We are there legally, and we've always been there. We have documentation to prove it. The Road Traffic Act also gives us permission to be there. Right? The Road Traffic Act stipulates that we can communicate with our guests, but orally or writtenly at our usual place of business. Our usual place of business has been anywhere that we have contracted to be. You could own, I'm gonna just throw out any business, Poop Deck. Right now, you could own Poop Deck, and I come to you and I present you with a proposition, and I'll be operating from that. That'll be my usual place of business. Now, along with these terms, we need to look at this and see how does this fit into 2026 and moving forward. Mm-hmm. Because these terms are what we're fighting against now. This is what the taxi union is pulling on to right now. All right, so we need to, go ahead, Tori.
I just want to piggyback on something. We talked about, Juwan would have mentioned all the different entities, the taxis, the tour operators. And I want to go to the whole statement that the taxi union president made in terms of the livery stealing taxi jobs, right? Mm-hmm. We operate on a different level than taxi service. We actually only take 1% of the jobs at LPA. 1%. For every 15 to 20 taxis, one livery car moves. I've done the statistics. I challenge anybody to stand with me any given day and watch how many jobs does a taxi driver have, or the taxi jobs could go in a taxi, and versus how many go into a livery car. It is no comparison, because taxis always will remain the most economical way to move. It's a universal language.
Because your fares are more, considerably.
Considerably more. A taxi of two people, let's use this for example, from the airport to Bahama is usually around, let's say $45, give or take. Our cheapest price in our town car is $75. Our SUVs start at $100. No matter what the taxi's in, his fare remains at around approximately $45. Mm-hmm.
So surely you're not stealing jobs.
You're not stealing their jobs.
But then, so where?
I don't know where this notion came from.
Why is it that you all are being seen and
because
when you have the TUC president speaking out and saying that, listen, you all are the issue, and this issue that's been created as a result of your presence and stealing fares from taxi drivers is the issue when, as you say, they outnumber you considerably in getting jobs from the airport.
I want to say, I think this is a mask over the other issues that taxi has. If you understand what I'm saying, this is the big thing to put in their face, but the taxis probably have some other issues that the union needs to sort out.
Do you know any of them?
I don't like I said, I'm not going to comment on the taxi issues, but I honestly believe this is a big mask over the other issues. And I'll say this too. I'll give you a couple of issues. A taxi who drives, say, for example, an SUV, right? Is he taking a livery job? When he charges X amount of dollars that is not regulated? When taxis now go and put themselves online and get prearranged business, are they taking livery jobs?
So you're saying that arrangement is something livery operators do?
When a taxi goes out to the port and offers tours, and is that taking tour company jobs? See, we can go the list and the list and the list, but we're not here to throw rocks or eggs or anything at anybody.
Is there a fear that this can become violent?
No. That's not what we're about. We're not about violence. Peace.
You say no, but truly, if people feel as though their livelihood is on the line and you all are benefiting better than they are and they feel they have the right to be there, I mean, what's to say that won't happen? O.B. Ferguson went as far as to say you all have the potential to destroy, and when I say you all, this issue, to destroy the tourism industry, the bread and butter industry of the Bahamas.
Well, I'll tell you, I could only speak for the livery union and all the livery drivers. As the head of that organization, we, T1 and all our executive team, we've spoken to our drivers and have asked them to refute from any type of confrontation, any type of violence, walk away, call the police, do what is necessary to not get ourselves involved with that. We realize that we are the ambassadors in this country. We are the first impression. We don't want this for our country. So we will walk away and we will just call the police. We're not into that violence talk and all that other stuff.
And Tehran, the vehicles that the livery drivers operate, they have become or are becoming the preferred, aren't they?
I would like to say yes, and based on the general practice in the travel industry.
Elsewhere.
Yes, people prefer SUVs, particularly American clients. A lot of them own some of the same vehicles. They trust the American brands, and that's what a lot of the livery has there. But this industry, we need to take a look at how many players are in this industry now.
Is it overcrowded? Because you all mentioned tour operators, livery drivers, taxi drivers, others coming in every day. I mean, I know that we are welcoming more and more tourists, but where you all play?
I wouldn't use the word overcrowded because it's a big pie, right?
Yeah.
And there's a
if
piece.
It's structured
if it's structured
well,
properly,
yeah.
there's a piece of this pie for everybody.
Minister
It all depends on how much of the pie you really want. Do you want to be a hog and eat half of the pie, or you just need your little tiny slice? You understand what I'm saying? And that's how you have to come into it. You have to realize what's going on. All right, the market has become like Tehran would have mentioned, triple than what it was before for livery drivers, double what it was for taxi drivers. Now we have to come up with new innovative ways with technology, the digital platforms, and some new sit down around the table and see how we can, and maneuver and create more opportunity for us, and not just sit around the airport or sit around the hotels and hub around and talk about I fighting for a job. What about Bahamians and Bahamas? What about us? What about you wanting to take a taxi to work one day?
Or livery.
Or a livery car. You know what I mean? We have to come up with creative ways and move around. But unfortunately, we want to hub up at these cruise ship ports, and we only want to take care of the tourists and forget about everybody else. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But our union, I'll tell you this, is working its way, and it's working on some things that we're going to introduce in the near future of how we are looking at, and we've already presented it to the minister and some ideas that we're going to be doing. So, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to build our own situation and not worry about what the taxis and but I want to kill that thing about us having any back and forth or any row with taxis.
And destroying the tourism industry.
Destroying tourism, that's not us.
Gentlemen, I welcome you back here whenever as many times and whenever you would like to return to continue discussing, and even, once it's in place, talking about what this sort of new look and initiative is for livery drivers. Certainly you're welcome to return to the show as usual. Thank you both very much for stopping by. When we come back, the Hot Topics panel weighs in on that. And did you hear? The Department of Labor has suspended some construction projects. We'll tell you why. It's all after the break.
This year, Island Luck Sportsbook sent one of their very own customers all the way to San Antonio to watch Game 5 of the NBA Finals. The Knicks closed it out right then and there. No Game 6, no Game 7. Our customer was sitting in that arena the night the championship was decided. That's the kind of luck we talking about at Island Luck Sportsbook. Winners live here. Must be 18 and over. Island Luck reminds you that it's only a game, so please game responsibly.
Running out of space? We've got room for that. Welcome to Skyline Storage, your trusted self-storage solution. Skyline Storage offers units from 5x10 to 10x30, climate controlled or standard dry. Perfect for home or business. Located in Westfield Commerce Park, Western New Providence. Your belongings stay safe with gated access and 24/7 surveillance starting at $175 a month. Reserve, pay, and move in online. No phone calls, no paperwork. Visit SkylineStorage.com. Skyline Storage. Storage made simple.
Wealth should not only belong to a select few. At InvestStar, we believe the door should be open to everyone. We provide options for planning a better future. Our investment funds are designed to assist you in reaching your long-term financial goals. Let us show you how.
Welcome back to Beyond the Headlines. We're going to jump right in with the Hot Topics panel. Good evening to you, Peggy Candace and Glenroy Pratt. It's great to have you both here. You all saw we started the show on a number of levels. First with the Christian Council President, just reaffirming his message of really for the nation to repent and get things right, to move forward in the way that the national anthem describes. And then at the second segment, we had the what Obie Ferguson describes as really an issue that threatens the very bread and butter industry of this nation. And this is where I want to jump into right now. I want to give you each an opportunity to respond to that. As you would hear in the words of the gentleman just in the last segment, they have no issue or even being contentious with taxi drivers at the airport or anywhere else. They simply want to be able to help move the industry forward and provide what visitors may want and request. But your thoughts about how this is all kind of playing out?
Good night, Shanique. Good night, Bahamas. Thank you for having me. The president and vice president of the union was very clear, articulate in their position. They don't have an issue. There appears to be some need for rewriting of the law to include them specifically. And this pie that the president spoke about, do you want to be a hog or just your piece? And that's important. You can't exclude Bahamians from making a living in this country. If their clientele is a bit different, I don't see a problem. The tour drivers have their clientele, they're taking on tours. And so if everybody go after their particular clientele, I don't see a problem, but it is up now for the minister and ministry responsible in this progress government to make sure that the law meet the needs of 2026. And the law is progressive to serve all involved.
Good evening, Shanique. Good evening, Bahamas. And thank you for having me. The other thing is, I'd like to add to the comments just made by Tavegi. Obviously, the industry is changing. So when you have a high demand in terms of the luxury and the type of hotel and all the other sectors that you build, you attract a certain level of clientele. When you attract a certain level of clientele, then you have a certain level of clientele who's interested in riding certain types of vehicles. That's one aspect of it. You also have a scenario where, don't forget now, we have several hotels that have been closed down and not operating. For one, in the beach tower over at Atlantis, that has been shut down for years. That's over 423 rooms. Then you also have down where you had Melia, and you also have other areas that short in terms of hotel room nights. That has an impact on the business. Then you also couple that with the reality of what transpired about 2-3 years ago, where we had a allowance of a lot of taxi plates and taxi licenses that were granted. It could have been an oversaturation in the market when the market is already soft based on the things I just previously mentioned. So these things have an impact. You heard the president talk, Tory talked about the fact that there is a oversaturation in terms of, he didn't use the word oversaturation, that's my word. The fact that you have more livery drivers, you have more taxi drivers and so on. So the pie as we thought it was is not as big as it was. So now you have people who are looking to live and sustain themselves fighting to do so. And so this is the reality that they're facing. And obviously, as time progresses and the investments start to come on stream and the more hotels start to develop and so on and so forth, they will be ready and available. But until that time comes, right now, we are going to continue to see what I believe will be a challenge.
Shanique, but I think the president said exactly the opposite. There isn't an oversaturation. We all know that the tourist product has been increasing, record-breaking over the years. Since 2019, there's been record-breaking numbers. And so the pie is big enough if people are willing to share this pie. But additionally, that happened at the airport, that protest, it was heard live. Several people went live, and the minister did show up. And one of the things that he was saying is that, come talk to me, come talk to me. My door's open, come talk to me. And so I would wish that every party, because it makes no sense having a meeting with one party, that both parties come together and resolve this issue. Even though I do not agree with the President Ferguson's position that it's gonna damage, I think he's just got gaslighting and trying to stir up. I think if all Kool-Aids come and do what is in the best interest of the product, of tourism industry, of all of their livelihood, it will be a better solution. So embrace the minister's open door policy and go in and have that conversation.
But I mean, it's necessary for the minister to make this happen because I think they all have a role in the industry.
Yes.
Those luxury vehicles, there are people who just look online. This is what they prefer to drive. Others want a quick taxi, get me where I need to go, and I'm good. I think that there can be a wonderful, peaceful resolution where everyone is smiling. You heard them. Their fares are double, if not triple, than a taxi. And so there are people who are going to specifically aim for that, and there are others who are going to say, no, thank you.
Yes.
But Shanique, the reason why they're fighting is because they don't get they're not getting the fares that they desire. The taxi drivers, that is. The delivery drivers may be able to do it because they're getting one or two customers that are paying double what the taxi drivers would pay. I want to dispute what Peggy stated as relates to the fact that the stopover visitors. We may have had increased tourism arrivals, but in those numbers, we are not talking about persons coming to the country, but they're not going in the island. They're not roaming about as we think that they are. They may be going to private islands and private destinations that are established now, that we know that they are considered to be a part of the count in terms of tourist arrival. So the fact is that we still have a shortage in terms of how people are roaming about through the country, and that reality exists even when you see it daily. A lot of tourists are not traversing
because the tourism product is a bit stale.
And not only that,
that is exactly true.
Not only that,
that's true.
The way of arranging, according to what I heard, the way that the livery company arranged, it seems like they're using technology to arrange their transportation, and so probably they need to, the taxi drivers need to up their mode of operation. If these people are using technology, travel apps and whatever, they're appealing to a different type of clientele.
No doubt about it, and that is why I said, like, I think they can work it out, because there are people who prefer one over the next. Then there are those who want to have tours. Now back to the tours and the tourism product. I was a little vexed the other day to be stopped in traffic when a tour operator was stopping at a gated community to show the tour. Like, you
pull over.
That was no, but how does that get to be a tourist attraction?
It's probably their interest.
You're right.
Trying to sell real estate. It's a
you're
little bundle.
You're right.
Yeah, tourists have a lot of different interests, and there are some people come here to see certain things, and obviously he takes advantage of the opportunity to show them things. And also, when you have an island 21/7, you have to find ways to entertain
but this
them.
is my point. We've got to become more creative and help sort of diversify what our attractions are. That's all. I wish we had bridges, one or two, but leave that right there. But no, the thing is, really that is a tourist attraction. Or so.
You can show them the pot cake, which is always on the corner.
The pot cakes, and see, this is the national dog.
Yeah, right, exactly. Let the dogs out.
Listen, a very serious matter, really, and it's good that it's been given the attention that it deserves. Several construction workers were sent home on sites in Western New Providence after occupational health and safety officials found them in breach of operational standards. Senior safety officer within the Department of Labor's safety unit, Sharon Moss, says outside of a lack of signage and personal protective equipment being used, serious breaches were discovered. The unit takes its job seriously and is encouraging all construction operators and obviously everyone in the industry to ensure that safety is priority on the jobs. She stopped short of mentioning if the inspections will continue. Okay, we don't seem to have those thoughts, but you have an idea what was done today. And again, kudos to the Department of Labor for stepping on that, because we have had a number of industrial accidents recently that it just seemed as though, and obviously the Department of Labor obviously saw that there was lacking the various safety measures that need to be in place, including those who work on, say, scaffolding and other things that require height and the rest of it, who were not properly harnessed and properly protected. Here's some of what she had to say.
Also, we would have observed several employees, again, not having on their hard hats, their boots, steel-toe boots, their harness, those who were on high-level scaffolds not properly bolted down. You had employees operating forklift machines and didn't have on the protective equipment that they ought to. You had visible steel poking out, and they were not properly capped as they should on every site. You have debris all over the construction site, which is a very dangerous thing. It's very important for the OSHA unit and the inspectors attached to the Occupational Safety and Health unit to go out every week to ensure that every work site is conducted properly and ensure that every worker has on the gears they ought to have on. And it is also the responsibility of the foreman and superintendents on these sites to ensure the health and safety of all of their workers. And the employees also has a very important role to ensure their own safety.
You know, Peggy and Glenroy, that's good to hear. The thing is, we want to see that continue some more, don't we?
Yes, and she mentioned something that is extremely important, enforcement. And then there's a responsibility of the workers. You've got to protect your life. It's sad that it reached the point that within weeks, 2 young men were dead. But imagine the reports that didn't make the news because individuals didn't die. My neighbor broke both his legs falling off a roof his first day. And so there must be enforcement. And guys, you got to protect your life. You got to want to go home at the end of the day.
You know, I had an adopted uncle in 2018 who actually felt his death in the same fashion, painting a building out on the Western Strip. And it's unfortunate, you know, and that was a shocking experience. But even about Saturday, I was moving about and I saw some work being conducted on a school, a private school somewhere in the neighborhood. And I noticed a guy almost at the peak of the roof on the edge, and he was just nailing, it was 2 of them. And I looked at it and I was like, hey, I told my daughter, I say, they have no harness or anything of the sort. I said, one little slip, and the guy was like to the edge. And it was really frightening to see because I was like, one little slip, and that could be the end of him because he was really, really way up there. And the challenge, though, is it's also the foremen, it's also the contractors and all this. They need to ensure that if you don't have the proper necessary protective gear, you should not be on the site. In addition to that, we also need to ensure that we are ensuring that our laws are enforced in this regard. In the same way we have police officers to detect and protect in terms of crime, we need to have similar officers inspecting and ensuring that these things are carried out in an efficient manner and making sure that somebody is held accountable when it's not done properly and given fines and all this other stuff as well. So much so that these types of behaviors can stop prevailing in our country because this is some of the same reasons why we find, you know, some things happen in a tragic fashion that has been happening as of late.
Yeah, and showing up. Don't make this be a reactive thing. Let this be part of your policy that you have inspectors showing up on these job sites. We all know where they are. Just show up, have your guys show up and close more. And then I believe this enforcement will cause the owners of these construction companies to take this serious and enforce that you cannot show up on the site. If you're picking up guys on the side of the road who need work, you better have your protective gear, you better have your boots, you better have this and you better have that. And if they don't, because your company will be closed, your company will be penalized. And so I hope that it's not only reactive and that it's continual.
And especially you workers, if you find that you don't have the necessary gear, protect yourself.
Yes.
It's your life you're taking a risk with. Protect yourself. You got to go home to your family. Your family is relying on you to bring home the bread that you're going out there to earn. Make sure protect yourself at all costs.
Yes.
Absolutely. You know, great points. Again, kudos to the Department of Labor, but it's something that has to be ongoing and continuous. And surprise, it's good that you sent those workers home, so it shows you mean business.
Yes.
But as you all said, it should perhaps be accompanied by fines, just to really have everyone feel that, understand, we are not playing with this. In fact, it's your life that we're trying to save, and your safety as well. I thank you both very much. Just a very abbreviated hot topics discussion, but thank you very much. Of course, at the top of tonight's show, President of the Bahamas Christian Council, Pastor Mario Moxie. In the middle of the show, we had the President and Vice President of the Bahamas Livery Drivers Union. And Peggy and Glenroy, once again, thank you very much. And a huge thank you to all of you for tuning in this evening. I certainly enjoyed having you along, and I look forward to seeing you right back here tomorrow evening. For the entire Beyond the Headlines team, I'm Shanique Miller. Make it a great evening, everyone.